Okay, let's jump right into this. Picture this. It's 2002, and a young entrepreneur named Elon Musk packs his bags and flies to Russia. His mission? He literally wants to buy a refurbished intercontinental ballistic missile. No joke. He has this audacious, kind of crazy idea to launch a greenhouse to Mars just to inspire public support for space exploration. But, well, the trip doesn't exactly go as planned. The Russians flat out refuse to sell him a rocket, and one designer reportedly even spits in his face. Now, most people, they'd have gone home, licked their wounds, and given up. But Musk flies home, opens his laptop right there on the plane, and starts calculating the physics and economics of just building a rocket himself. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are dissecting the chaotic, high-stakes bets of one of the absolute most polarizing figures in business history.
And that brings us to this brilliant quote from his biographer, Ashley Vance, which perfectly sets up the core, totally unresolved question of our entire analysis today. You gotta ask yourself, is he a visionary being sent from the future to save mankind, or is he just a slick businessman dragging foolish investors along on these grand, cash-burning rides? Because 20 years after that disastrous Russia trip, SpaceX had the most advanced rockets on the planet, and Tesla was worth nearly $1 trillion. But to really answer this question, we can't just look at the highlight reel. We need to take a completely objective look at the strategic framework sitting underneath literally every decision he has ever made.
Section 1, the money trail.
To understand the rockets and the electric cars, we actually have to start by looking backward, because the sheer velocity of his early career is just staggering. In 1999, Musk sold Zip2, which was an online directory company he built with his brother, to Compaq for $300 million. His personal cut, $22 million. But instead of playing it safe, he immediately pours that money into X.com, an online bank, which later merges to become PayPal. And then, just a couple years later, in 2002, eBay swoops in and acquires PayPal for $1.5 billion. That massive acquisition left Musk with a staggering payout of $180 million. Now, the absolutely crucial point here is what he did next. At this level of wealth, conventional wisdom says, you diversify. You invest in safe assets, or you just retire to a private island and sip margaritas. Musk did the exact opposite. He took essentially every single dollar of that $180 million and poured it simultaneously into 3 highly capital-intensive companies: SpaceX, Tesla, and SolarCity. He took completely liquid digital software money and bet the entire farm on heavy manufacturing and aerospace. These are industries absolutely notorious for eating startups alive. So fast forward to 2008, and the consequences of those massive bets finally catch up with him. Musk described this period as, quote, probably the worst year of my life. And honestly, it's pretty easy to see why. He was facing near total financial ruin. The global financial crisis was freezing capital markets. Tesla was bleeding cash with huge quality problems and massive manufacturing struggles. And SpaceX had just suffered 3 devastatingly public, highly explosive rocket launch failures. So why on earth did he keep going when he was practically bankrupt? Well, answering that requires us to look at how he formulates strategy, because it is completely different from conventional thinkers. Section 2. Look forward, reason back. So this brilliantly illustrates his core strategic framework. Look forward, reason back. Normally, conventional business strategy works from the present forward. You look at your current resources, you look at your competitors, and you say, okay, what's achievable in the next 3 to 5 years? It's safe, right? But it also systematically leads companies to underinvest in the distant future. Musk completely inverts this. He starts by defining a very specific vision of the world decades from now, and then works backward. He asks, what capabilities, what infrastructure, and what exact technologies must we build today to make that future inevitable? It's actually a super powerful framework you can apply to your own long-term goals. You define the 10-year reality, and you literally build the infrastructure for it today. And he applies this framework with an unusual, almost brutal literalness. In August 2006, he published a blog post called The Secret Tesla Motors Master Plan. This wasn't some corporate PR fluff. It was a completely public 4-step roadmap detailing exactly what Tesla was going to do. The plan was incredibly simple. Step 1, build a sports car. Step 2, use that money to build an affordable car. Step 3, use that money to build an even more affordable car. And Step 4, while doing all of that, provide zero-emission electric power generation options. Let's see how this actually played out in the real world. So, Step 1. To shift the entire world toward a solar electric economy, Musk knew he couldn't start by selling a cheap, terrible golf cart. He had to completely break the existing mental models people had about electric vehicles. So, he builds a high-end sports car, the Roadster.
released in 2008 with a price tag way over $100,000. The strategy here was to prove unequivocally that electric vehicles could be fast, beautiful, and highly, highly desirable. Once the Roadster proved the concept and actually generated initial revenue, Tesla systematically moved down market, exactly like that public roadmap dictated. They took those high-end profits and all that new investor confidence to build the Model S, a luxury sedan that was slightly more affordable but still super premium, aiming to capture a much broader segment of early adopters, which finally led them to the Model 3, the true mass-market evolution. Now, was the timeline he predicted back in 2006 wildly optimistic? Oh, absolutely. The guy famously struggles with overestimating how fast physical things can be built. But the unambiguous direction precisely described what Tesla actually did, years and years in advance. He reasoned back from a world of mass-market EVs and methodically built the stepping stones to get there. Section 3, the SpaceX Crucible. All right, let's shift our focus from the roads to the stars. When Musk looked at the launch industry back in 2002, he saw a complete duopoly. Boeing and Lockheed Martin had formed the United Launch Alliance, and honestly, they had grown incredibly inefficient because there was just zero competitive pressure. The U.S. Air Force was paying over $400 million per launch. Musk knew for a fact he could undercut them, but to do it, he had to build rockets totally differently. He had to iterate rapidly and test to the point of literal failure. As a former NASA engineer pointed out, government agencies just can't operate like this. Public failure is politically brutal. But Musk, running a private company, he had the absolute freedom to let people see him fail. And oh man, fail he did. This brings us right back to that excruciating period in 2008. The whole strategy of rapid iteration meant rockets were absolutely going to explode. And SpaceX failed publicly on its very first Falcon 1 launch. Then, it failed on its second. And then, devastatingly, it failed on its third. By the fall of 2008, Musk was within single-digit weeks of total financial collapse. All that money from the huge PayPal exit, it was practically gone. Everything, and I mean everything, came down to September 2008, the fourth launch. If this rocket failed, SpaceX was finished. Done. Tesla, which was desperately relying on Musk's ability to keep funding it, likely would have collapsed right alongside it. His entire personal net worth would have been wiped out. But the fourth launch succeeded. It was a literal life or death moment for his entire empire, and it finally proved that his willingness to absorb massive, public, catastrophic risk could actually yield a working orbital rocket. Section 4, the strategy breakdown. So let's distill all of this chaos, all these explosions and near bankruptcies, into some core academic business strategy takeaways. What is the actual strategic playbook here? Well, first, it relies heavily on vertical integration. In a nascent industry, whether it's commercial spaceflight or early EVs, the supply chain simply doesn't exist yet. You have to build the missing pieces yourself. Secondly, aggressive growth to build scale. By building these enormous factories and producing his own components, Musk runs down the learning curve way faster than anyone else, which violently drives down fixed costs. And that creates a massive first-mover advantage. If you're looking to disrupt a stagnant industry in your own career, figuring out how you can vertically integrate and accelerate your own learning curve is an incredibly powerful takeaway from all of this. Which brings us right back to where we started today. We've seen the $180 million bets, the incredibly methodical master plans, and the literal life-or-death rocket launches. He has completely redefined strategy by looking decades into the future and reasoning back, absorbing levels of risk that would absolutely terrify any normal board of directors. So I'm going to leave the final thought to you. Does this incredibly risky, forward-looking strategic framework make him a once-in-a-generation genius? Or is he just a very, very lucky risk-taker whose fourth rocket just happened to work? Thank you so much for watching this explainer, and keep questioning the strategy behind the headlines.